You are. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So this is the.
Did you get me, Catherine? This is Jennifer. I'm on.
I do. I see you. Thank you.
Okay.
So this is the San Diego Regional Litter Abatement Subcommittee. It's Wednesday, September 16, 2020. And I would like to say good morning and welcome you to the second meeting of this subcommittee. We have a couple of new members that I would like to welcome to the subcommittee today. The first one is Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis from National City, and then Jean Matter, who is the Interim Director of Environmental Services for the City of San Diego. So that's an advisory role, which is great. I'm so glad that we have some high-level professional staff at the City of San Diego that will really help us, I think. And I would also like to thank Surfrider, Mark O'Connor, and I Love a Clean San Diego, Len Herring, for all of your help in identifying and reaching out to the many stakeholders who we identified at the last meeting. So many of us emphasized how important it was to get all the right people at the table. And with your help, we were able to do that now on our way. So as we get started here, I'll ask the clerk to just confirm that we have a quorum.
Good morning, Chair. We do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So the first item is approval of meeting minutes, and I would entertain a motion for that, please.
This is Mayor Didino. I'll second.
Okay, that was my motion and his second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, it's okay. If you're seconding, then I'll go ahead and first.
Sorry. Yeah.
Do we have any public comments, Tessa, on the meeting minutes?
I do not see any hands raised for public comments.
Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on that.
Thank you. On item number 1, City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
City of Imperial Beach, Mayor Davina.
Didina, yes.
City of Oceanside, Deputy Mayor Jack Feller.
Yes.
City of Lemon Grove, Councilmember Jennifer Mendoza.
Aye.
City of National City, Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis abstained since I just joined the committee, but I'm here. I will support future minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. City of San Diego is absent. City of Vista, Deputy Mayor Amanda Rigby is absent. That item passes with 1 abstention and 1 member absent.
Okay, thank you. Now we will move to public comments and then also member comments. So do we have any public comments?
Yes, Chair, we do have 1 hand raised. A B. Seipel.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, great. I believe I wrote to most of you in the past days expressing my concern about the pileup of litter along the freeway corridors. And I want to thank you because I noticed yesterday that there was an intensive amount of purpose being spent on the 94 freeway corridor to clean it up. So I just wanted to express my thanks. I'm not too certain how that happened, but it happened. But I do want to hope that I can glean from this meeting or getting more information from whoever you point citizens, regular citizens, to understand why this is happening and what can be done to prevent it from happening in the future. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other public comments?
I see no further hands raised.
Okay, so just to answer the comment made from the public speaker, and also just to remind everybody what we're doing here, this subcommittee was created from the SANDAG board to try to reduce the amount of litter we have on our freeways and Caltrans right-of-ways in general that is unsightly, is dangerous, and is an environmental hazard. From our first meeting, that this and there are a lot of parties involved in any solutions. So the goal of this committee is to come up with some solutions so that we can change the reality and have less trash. So we are headed, my hope is, in a pretty straight line towards some solutions to the problem that we see in our county. And certainly having this run out of Sandag, which is the region's transportation agency, working together with Caltrans, which manages our freeways and highways, and then having all of these advocate partners who have been deeply involved in this topic for years will help us identify those solutions. So today we have two presentations that are from those two main institutional partners. So Caltrans, and then also the TARP Your Load presentation that's from Surfrider and I Love a Clean San Diego. So
I'm sorry,
yes.
you do have one more public member that has a hand raised, Randy Wortman.
Okay.
I apologize for missing that. Go ahead, Mr. Wortman.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Randy Wortman. I'm with the Butte County Office of Education Back to Work program. As I mentioned in a previous meeting, we work with veterans who are mostly experiencing homelessness. And we actually do the work alongside of Caltrans every day. We send 3 crews out every single day from 6:45 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. We send them out to work on the freeway, picking up litter, doing brush clearing. Our program is important because it changes lives. It solves 2 problems. It solves hopefully homelessness for our participants. It provides a long-term career. So as they participate and move on. And then, of course, it serves the community by reducing litter and trash. One of the most important things I just wanted to share with everyone is that we are actually a government agency. My employer is the Butte County Office of Education. And I know it sounds kind of unusual what's Butte County doing in San Diego, but we're just an enterprising agency that has done work outside of our boundaries for the past 50 years, starting with migrant education, and just going on with a lot of different other programs. And so for the past 3 years or so in San Diego, we've done this, and we've got working 14 counties total, about 27 or 28 different crews. So I'm telling you this because as a public agency, the nice thing is that the work that we do and taking on any kind of contracts, whatever, obviously doesn't need to go through the procurement process. So we do that for the public agency that we're working with. We can do all the procurement and everything like that. But we want to continue part of the solution here in San Diego, willing to take on and work with more partners in San Diego as well, not just Caltrans, and basically just continue to work. And I want to, listen and be part of this, at least if nothing else, to listen to this committee and see how we can actually further and expand our role and help and reach out to basically more participants, more veterans in San Diego, and also more agencies, more be larger role with Caltrans. Anything that we can do basically to help out, we're here for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Randy. We appreciate you being here and taking the time to speak and share that with us. Okay, so do we have any member comments? And then after that, we'll move to the Caltrans update. I don't see any hands. Oh yes, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, again, express my gratitude for being part of this committee. I think as we discuss the impacts of COVID-19, but also looking longer term, the impacts of trash, the accumulation of one-time plastics on our freeways. There's just a number of things that we can start thinking for the future, how we can help battle this, the trash that has been accumulated along all of our freeway on and off ramps, and even among the freeways themselves. I'm really glad to see the partnership with Caltrans and Sandag, again, really strengthening what our mutual goals are, and that's to keep our our freeways clean, safe, and for all people to have that ability for mobility on and through our communities. So thank you again, Chair, for hosting this, but I wanted to express my gratitude for Chair Voss for appointing me to this committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move to the Caltrans update now.
Chair, I think Serge had, Mayor Dedina had something as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Just, I was inspired by Mayor Solis' Together We Can slogan, which I think is important, but I think all of us are probably feeling a little more than overwhelmed with, the fires that our state and along the West Coast have experienced, the air quality issues, the pandemic, economic crisis, it can go on. And I think people really are trying to make a difference. I think the feeling that I have is that litter on our highways, on our roadways is one thing that we actually can have a significant impact on. I do want to just shout out to Caltrans because it's very clear, especially in the area around National City, the curve going south, it's very clear. I just was on it yesterday, it was cleaned up. I know that areas along South 5 and near IB, between IB and Chula Vista and National City have been cleaned up, so that's good. So what I'm really proud of, and I think it's great, is that San Diego is putting, and all of us are putting together this team with different stakeholders to figure out how to get this done. And I know we can. So together we can. Thank you, Mayor Solis, but also thank you, Mayor Blakespeare, and all the stakeholders. I think this will be a beautiful friendship, as Humphrey Bogart said in Casablanca, or the start of a beautiful friendship. So anyway, there we go.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you to both of you. Okay, so let's go to Caltrans now.
Thank you, Mayor Blakespeare. And thank you for the first caller. I couldn't catch her name, for noticing the cleanup that we did on State Route 94. We're out there every day with our forces and also with our partners, like the Veteran Outreach Program that Randy Wardman was talking about, clean our freeways. And it's good to know when it's noticed. And I appreciate it. And thank you, Mayor Sotelo Solis and Mayor Dedina also for the comments regarding the role that Caltrans plays in this. Having said that, we're still catching up. We're not where we were before COVID, and we're not also where we would like to be with respect to the amount of litter on our highways. So I do have high hopes that this committee will help us get there. So following is a presentation regarding how Caltrans approaches litter. And I'm gonna invite Andrew Rice. Andrew is our maintenance program manager that focuses on litter as well as encampments. I'm gonna invite him to do this presentation, and hopefully it'll give everybody, all the committee members as well as the public, an understanding on how Caltrans approaches litter and why we are where we are today. So Andrew.
Yes, hello, sound check, can everybody hear me? Yes, all right. Good.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so I'm actually in one of our conference rooms using the smart board, so I'll just kind of step closer to the camera to introduce myself. So hello to everyone. So now I will share my screen with this PowerPoint. And where are we? There we go. Share. So let's see. All right, is everyone seeing that then? Are we good?
Yes, we are. We see it.
Okay, great. So, Sandag Regional Litter Subcommittee. So thank you for having me. And here's this PowerPoint presentation, as Gustavo mentioned, on how we approach this litter. So first of all, I think most of you understand that District 11 here in Caltrans is encompassing basically the San Diego and Imperial counties, but obviously the focus of this committee and of course Sandag would be the San Diego area. And so as you kind of circle in this area here on the west side of our district, That's really the focus here. And within those areas, we have 5 major maintenance stations. We have one in Carlsbad, Escondido, Kearney Mesa, Santee, and Chula Vista. So within those 5 major maintenance areas, and I'm actually listing 6 locations here, I'm going to break down to kind of, this gives you a depiction of then what routes areas that those areas are responsible for. So like the orange is Carlsbad that has 5, 76, 78. Escondido has 15, 76, and 78. Kearney Mesa, as you know, we get down into 805, 163, 52, 56. Santee has areas along 67, 125, along 8 from La Mesa on out east, 94 from basically just west of Euclid on out, all the way down to the toll road on 125. And then we have Chula Vista area that really is from the border on up towards the 94. And then we actually have this other group that we call the Metro San Diego area, which is really a subgroup from our Kearney Mesa maintenance station that kind of addresses a lot of customer service requests, but has a focal point on that sort of triangular area of 8 and 163 and I-5 in the downtown area. So that gives you an idea of our different crew setup. So getting right into it, how Caltrans cleans the transportation system. So we have Caltrans litter forces. So that each one of those maintenance stations has a dedicated crews of our employees that are to trash. So that currently that's around 35 employees for all those different areas. Then we have different types of other types of litter crews that we contract out. And we have one that's called part of the Center for Employment Opportunities, or CEO crews. And that's really through the county probation program. And that's really running about 15 to 20 employees Monday through Friday right now. And then we have the Veterans Outreach Program that, that Randy addressed earlier. And then that's similar to about 15 to 20 employees that are working every day on cleaning up. Then we have the encampment contractor, and it's American Integrated Services for encampment cleanups. And that is a specialized crew that has to deal with basically hazardous material. We can't, as Caltrans forces, really be picking up the trash from encampments. And that's a 5-person crew typically. And then this next bullet is about the county probation program. And I just wanted to highlight that that was actually canceled due to COVID. So this is a significant loss to our labor force. And it's certainly having an impact on our abilities to remove the litter. And just to give you an idea, that was a loss of up to 70 people working Monday through Friday, and then they were also running multiple crews on Saturday, that up to 100 people that would be using that probation program. So that's no longer on the table right now due to COVID. We have Caltrans sweeping operations, and those are our mechanical sweepers. Every major maintenance station has sweeping operations, plus we have a dedicated crew just for night sweeping. We do swarm maintenance, where we try to take full advantage of these full closures. As you know, getting into some of these areas to clean is difficult. It can often take, closing down lanes or shoulders. So when we do other types of full closure for roadway maintenance issues, then we try to take full advantage from a litter standpoint. I also want to mention what we call the all hands on deck or litter stand down. Corey Benz, our previous director, had instigated this a couple of years ago now, or at least 1.5 years ago. And basically that's where all our crews, not just the ones I mentioned earlier from a Caltrans perspective, but all the crews are actually, for 1 day a month, are participating in the litter cleanup. And now, because we were impacted through COVID and actually had to suspend some operations from March through June, we're kind of trying to get caught up. And so we're actually moving that to twice a month right now. So that should also help in our efforts. And then we have construction projects, and we're really trying to emphasize that those projects are responsible for removing the litter within the project limits. I think the I-5 North Coast is a good example of that, and the efforts that they're making in trying to remove the litter. So now that's kind of the outline of the basic crews that are making up our forces out there. So now we're speaking more to the schedules, because I often get the question, well, tell me when they're going to be out there. Can you tell me when we're going to be out to a specific location? And to be honest with you, that's a difficult question to answer, because as you know, there's a large area for each one of those crews to cover. So the basic process is to kind of, each of these crews do a 3 to 4 week rotation process within the routes within their district. So if we look at Carlsbad, for example, and that's a kind of clean example, is they would look at, within that 3-week rotation, they would kind of focus on I-5 one week, 76 another week, and 78 another week. But this slide kind of shows you an example where, if over here on the right, we have where the crew scheduled to clean up in August, really from the 18th here through the 31st, so some cleanups along 78. And we got hit subsequently fairly hard from some Facebook requests, and there was a call out. And so in this kind of same general timeline, we ended up like 69 litter complaints. And the point we're trying to make here is that we're realizing that there's some inefficiencies here when we have to respond to all these CSRs or customer service requests, as well as legislative requests. And we have crews kind of jumping from one location to the other. And we're more efficient if we can kind of move linearly. Particularly in these operations, often you can kind of see in the pictures, you've got vans, you often have like shadow vehicles, you have Caltrans attenuator trucks for safety purposes. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to be jumping from all over the place in response to some of these requests. So that's something we're looking at to make our operations more efficient from a scheduling standpoint. So now I want to jump into the cost of the litter abatement. This bar chart really is showing basically our costs starting back in 2011, and kind of shows the general increase that we're spending every year on litter removal. Now these costs, and in fiscal year 20 here you can see is basically $6.5 million. And that's the cost, just so you know, of Caltrans's effort internally, and the equipment and all the different forces that do litter abatement efforts. It doesn't include the external costs. So, but you do see basically the pattern of our increase in expenditures. So now, again, in respect to the cost, our total cost for fiscal year 20 ended up about $12.5 million or $12.6 million. And that's when you include all the costs of all those other, from the hazmat crew that cleans up the encampments, which is actually a very significant cost, as well as all the other crews that we include. So, and then just also a bullet here to talk about through that fiscal year 20 effort. Through that, we picked up roughly 26,000 cubic yards of trash. And just to give you an idea, that's, you know, upwards of 182,000 bags of trash. And then this pie chart really is trying to show you that this is kind of the budget here in District 11 with respect to maintenance activities, all maintenance activities, with the yellow being the piece of the pie with respect to litter. And really what we're trying to communicate here is it's kind of a zero-sum game. So if we want to be increasing the amount of funding going towards the yellow portion, we're going to end up impacting something else. If it's landscaping, if it's safety features or pavement or what have you. So that is something to consider when we have these discussions. So I will now transition to level of service, because I know that was a question of what needed to be addressed here. And what level of service is basically an internal process within Caltrans, where headquarters up in Sacramento is evaluating the districts on various maintenance activities, all kinds of maintenance activities, and litter abatement as one of them. And it's an annual process. They basically, I think it's in the springtime, they go out and they evaluate 20% of our state highway system within the district. And it's kind of arbitrary or it's random or where they select those locations. And it's actually somebody from headquarters that does that. And they go through this process, and this slide does show an equation, and I'm not trying to explain that equation. It's a little bit complicated, but they go through a process and come up with a score. And it's a scale of 0 to 100. And you can see here our overall litter goal score is 80. And then you can also see that our score here in District 11 was 83. Now I know a lot of you might have questions about that. So that, first of all, this is a fiscal year 19. I don't have fiscal year 20 scores yet. So this is not the current condition. And the other important thing to understand is that's an average for the entire district. And so again, they are going to look at sites that are, could be out in Imperial County and other rural areas within San Diego, as we all know, that collect, less trash than the urban areas that we're kind of focused on here in the greater San Diego area. So that does impact that overall score. And so, that is a reason for that you see that. So the LOS again is kind of an internal process, but we also have to comply with our permit with the State Water Resources Control Board, and I know this came up at the last meeting of this subcommittee. So I wanted to explain that I know that the local cities and counties have the MS4 permit that you need to comply with. Basically, we have something very, very similar, but we have a unique permit based on our assets and facilities, but essentially the same governing body and objectives. So as you can see here, basically the Caltrans will contain trash control implementation requirements and compliance milestones to demonstrate progress towards 100% compliance. And what we have is actually a statewide trash implementation plan with the water board, and then we have annual reports and an annual work plan relative to that. And so it's definitely something that we need to comply with. And then I guess the other important point to note out is, I mentioned the LOS and how we kind of look at sort of a random area within our district. The water board is actually looking at what they call significant trash generating areas, which STGAs. And so those are areas, again, but that are, obviously within the county, but they went out and actually did an evaluation. And I think it's important to understand for both of these that, anytime you're evaluating trash, it's at that point in time. So, it can change tomorrow, it could change next month. So that's always the subject to these types of evaluations for litter. But they did that in these significant trash generating areas. But these areas are also, they're determined based on their impacts to the waterways. So you're seeing those areas that have more of a direct impact there. So, I'm sorry. So off to the next slide. And I'm going to transition now to talk about Adopt a Highway program. And this one, this is kind of my baby, actually. I came over to maintenance about a year ago in efforts to look at litter and different things. And I really saw an opportunity here in this program to get a lot of bang for our buck. So I really had been a focus of my energies over the last year to really kind of do some upgrades and revisions to the programs. And honestly, we were gaining a lot of momentum with this, and then, like everyone else, got hit with the COVID, and it kind of put the brakes on a little bit of it, and it's a little bit unfortunate, but anyway, I still see a lot of potential with this. And based on what I heard at the last subcommittee meeting, I think there might be some misunderstandings of how this program, what it is, and how it's managed. So basically, it's an opportunity for individuals, businesses, civic groups to get involved in helping to clean our roadways. So, but I divide the program basically in two parts. You have volunteers, and then you have sponsorships. So volunteers, typical, again, those are individuals, or it's going to be groups like church groups or the Navy. The military is a big participant on the volunteer side. And there's no cost on the volunteer side. It's just the cost of their time to dedicate their time to do the cleanups. The The sponsorship side is where you have companies like I show here, Hydrex Pest Control is just one of many, that basically sponsors an adoption, and then they utilize one of our pre-approved adopt-a-highway contractors. We have 4 in the district that we utilize, and like 2 of them are nationwide. So as you know, we have there's adopt-a-highway programs throughout the country in all different states. So a couple of these companies work throughout the United States. And we have one that's more sort of West Coast, Arizona, and then we have one that's actually local to San Diego. So that's the difference between volunteers and sponsorships. Now, in those sponsorships, there's a contract between that sponsor and that contractor and Caltrans does not get involved. There's a cost and a contract between that, but that's not a payment to Caltrans. I wanted to be clear about that. The next bullet is just making the point that all areas are evaluated for safety. I think it's pretty clear that picking up trash in your local neighborhood or local park is one thing. Picking out trash out on the freeway where traffic's going to 70 miles an hour is a little bit different. And so our safety protocols are extensive, and obviously that's our #1 priority. And so not all areas are adoptable simply from that standpoint. One of the major areas that I'm trying to grow in this program is we traditionally have only adopted basically what we call mainline adoptions. And then in this case, like if you look at this sign, it's like on the main line on 805 in the Kearney Mesa area. But we're actually now creating much more adoptions along ramps, on and off ramps. And I'm putting up signs on both the on and off ramps for a sponsor or a volunteer to be adopting the ramp areas. And so I think that's a program that can really increase. And I think that's one of this advantages here of this, what we're trying to do with the program. So I currently manage about 425 adoptions, but honestly, there's probably the capacity to close to double that. And then the next bullet shows that then, okay, of the 425, typically we've had like 75% volunteers, 25% sponsorships. I've already been able to change that to more like 65% volunteers to 35% sponsorships, but my goal is even to get more like 50-50. And heck, I would even like 75 sponsorships and 25 volunteers. And the reason for that is, I mean, we love our volunteers and we have some excellent volunteers, but they're also, from a reliability standpoint and consistent cleanings, you're going to get better off when we have sponsorships, because those contractors then are under a contract and they get out there on a consistent basis. And yes, we have accountability with our volunteers and we're working with that, but you know, that can be challenging at times. And so I'm really trying to promote the sponsorship side of it. I often then get the question around cost. And that can really vary based on the type of adoption, the location of the adoption, how long it is, the amount of area, you know, ramp versus mainline, and then also the frequency of cleanings. In a perfect world, we would have adoptions would basically do 2 cleanings a month. And that would be great because, as you know, trash is generated very, very quickly out there, and most of these areas could be cleaned weekly, if not at least twice a month. But that can also be cost prohibitive for a lot of these companies. So anyway, the range can be anywhere from 250 if you're maybe cleaning once a month and looking at a certain ramp, versus twice a month on a certain main line could be upwards of about around $1,000 a month. But again, for some of these companies, that can be a very cost-effective way to get recognition. And as you can see in these signs, I mean, one of the things that we did, we invested in a new plotter. So traditionally we were only doing the black and white signs, and now we're doing custom logos. We can do all that and really enhance the product for these businesses and sponsorships. So the last bullet really is, you know, something that I really want to ask from you guys is to leverage the relationships between municipalities and your relationships with local businesses, and see if we can increase these sponsorships. And I can meet with all of you. I can show you what's available in each respective city. But I really think that's an opportunity where we can help and you know, it's free to everybody. I mean, it's obviously they're paying the contractor, but it's free to the state, and it's not really asking more resources from us to do this. So it's a great opportunity. All right, I'm probably taking too long here, so I need to get going. But so the next topic of conversation that we touched on there a few weeks ago was these areas, what we call areas of responsibilities when we're looking at the local street crossings of our right-of-way, basically the undercrossings and overcrossings. So, you know, and I know that you guys clean your streets and typically, you know, up to the back of sidewalk, and what we want to say is, hey, this, you know, if there's an expectation from Caltrans for you guys to also clean outside the back of sidewalk. So in this example, you know, you could see from the back of sidewalk up to the bridge abutment is an opportunity, and you can also see the amount of trash that often gets generated in these areas. So that's a way that we can kind of work together and help alleviate the trash in those interchanges. Okay, so you know, so there's kind of outlined how we do things in the schedules. So I'm just recognizing that, you know, we have some challenges from the pandemic. And I know Mayor Blakespeare and others, you've mentioned that this is a problem that started even before the pandemic. I mean, it was like you had conversations with Lori Berman, and then of course with Corey, and now Gustavo. But the reality is we are dealing with some challenges right now due to this. And, you know, I've explained this labor force. Actually, I kind of skipped over that a little bit, but when you get back to those like Randy's crews with the Veterans Outreach Program, or that CEO cruise that I mentioned, due to the pandemic, we're actually running about half capacity, because we typically would fill a van with about 8 to 10 people, but because of social distancing, they're only able to do 3 to 4 people per van. So all of these things, and then I mentioned that county probation program that went away. So that was a significant hit on the labor force. And then you combine that, and I mean, here's a recent picture I got from one of my volunteer adoptees, but just showing, like, you know, from all this takeout dining that we're doing, because people aren't doing dining, you know, in the restaurants, and all these plastic containers and everything else in the fast food industry, we're just seeing an enormous amount of trash is being generated. And then we have encampments. And as I know that you guys are very familiar with that, and that's a problem that's not going away. And if anything right now, due to the pandemic, we actually are not removing the individuals from the encampments. And those are due to COVID restrictions. So yes, we're cleaning these encampments, so we can hire our contractor to go clean these areas that you see in these pictures, but we're not removing the people from our right of way unless it's an emergency, unless they're like in a confined space. And again, that's all due to the COVID restrictions. And then finally, even I've noticed, you know, our Adopt a Highway taking a hit, you know, just the state of the economy, what's going on. So a number of sponsors have left, and we are hoping to get some more as well, but that is an impact. So how do we move forward? You know, it's like, how do we come some real tangible solutions? I know that we want out of the subcommittee. And so I kind of look at this as sort of short-term goals and long-term goals. But the first thing is, right, we need to figure out how to get some labor force out there to pick this stuff up. And we actually have some good news that actually happened just this week, where we got an allocation for 12 additional employees to be dedicated just to trash. So that may not replace the whole county probation program, but it certainly helps. And so that was really some good news that actually, again, earlier this week. As I mentioned, I really see some growth in the Adopt a Highway that can make a significant impact. You know, we need to pilot various innovative solutions that we're coming up with. And then they have what I consider more long-term solutions, you know, constantly looking on our partnerships. You guys have spoken about this public outreach campaign, education, enforcement, and you can see the pictures here. I think this is all wonderful things. So that's how we need to move forward in the solution on this. And then the last slide of this presentation is really just making a plug for what we're doing here in the Coastal Cleanup 2020 event. Coming up here September 26th, we have 4 Caltrans Park and Ride locations. We're going to offer free dumpsters for the public to properly dispose of the waste and debris. There'll be Caltrans educational activity with the books with children about clean water, educating about proper tarping, and collaborating with the Goodwill, I Love a Clean San Diego, State Water Board, and others. So that's basically the presentation. So here's our contact information. And of course, we ended up with our kids to always remember to be work zone alert and safe. So I guess we're going to open up to questions, but that's the presentation.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that presentation. I think what we should do is just answer brief questions. So let's not go into comments that are more extensive at this point, because I want to make sure we have time for both full presentations, and then we'll go to the board members for comments and suggestions. But does anybody have just clarifying questions that they want to pose right now to Caltrans? Let me see if I can get the hands up. Okay, so I see Len Herring has his hand up. Would you like to, he's from I Love a Clean San Diego. Would you like to ask a clarifying question, Len?
I would, just a quick one.
Okay.
How many miles of highway and roadway are you actually responsible for in the district that we are discussing? So miles per person is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, in that very first slide.
I can take that one.
Okay.
So our district covers about 1,100 centerline miles. Now that includes San Diego and Imperial County. And those 1,100 centerline miles equate to about 4,000 lane miles of highway. But again, that includes San Diego and Imperial County. The area that we're looking at today, those 5 areas that that you're asking about, it's a smaller number than that, but approximately covers about 4,000 acres. I don't have the exact lane miles of the area we're talking about, but that gives you an idea. Those numbers give you an idea of what our district covers, and also the acreage on the what we call the San Diego region is about 4,000 acres.
So if I equate this right, and I just want to make sure that we're in the right space, if you add up all the numbers of individuals who you have available for you, I count roughly 150 at any one time to cover more than 4,000 acres of cleanup.
I haven't done the math, but I trust that you got it right.
Well, I mean, I did not include the staff numbers for Imperial County. So if you're including the lane miles out there, then we would need to include that staff.
Okay, well, let's just table the specifics of that question. If you can clarify that over time and follow up, I think that would be great. So let me see. I don't see any other hands raised. Oh, okay, Mayor Sotelo-Solis.
Thank you, Chair. I actually had a question, follow up on the sponsorship. So the speaker actually shared that it was free to all, but the folks pay the contractor. So can I get a little more detail as to what the sponsorship is, and if any of those resources, the $1,000 a month comes back to the cities? Obviously, it would be in-kind services to keep the road clean, but can I get a little bit more detail as to the sponsorship? It says free to all, but pay the contractor. I needed some clarification on that. Thank you.
Sure. So it's free to volunteers, okay? Sponsorships and volunteers are 2 different things with respect to Adopt a Highway. So what I'm speaking to is a cost for sponsorship. So basically like that Hydrex Pest Control, we have Hohen Motors, we have all kinds of companies that then I give them, they say they want interested in adopting a sponsoring adoption. They don't want to do the litter removal themselves. They simply want to pay a contractor to do it, but they're going to get the signage out there and the recognition on the signage. Okay, so then I give them the list of these pre-approved contractors. They get in touch with them, and then they negotiate their own contract of the cost of the labor to do that pickup. And it's money that then Hohen Motors or the pest control company pays one of these adopt a highway contractors. No money comes to the state, no money comes to any other local agency. It's just a contract between these two, independent private companies, if you will. Is that clear? Or
Yes, it does. And again, that was why the question was for clarification, recognizing that there are two different levels of conversation that you're talking about. Is it possible to get a copy of that list of contractors or the partners for cleanup? I think it'd be good as elected officials to know who those partners are if we're able to get that list. Again, if they're local folks that are able to provide those services, I think it's also too a big plus that we can bolster those local hires and that partnership. Thank you.
yes, I absolutely can send you that list. So
Yes, and just to reiterate what Andrew just said, the Adopt a Highway program is a great program because it doesn't cost taxpayers anything. Either people come in and clean the highway for free with their own effort, or they hire somebody directly to do it. But public agencies don't collect any money, but they also don't spend any money. So it is a great program where we can leverage either community organizations or companies that do it for the greater public good and also for the recognition that they will be recognized for that effort through a sign.
And do you, Gustavo, keep track, or Andrew, keep track of how much poundage or, weight of trash is picked up or unique items if and when, folks do sponsor those Adopt a Highway cleanups?
Yes, we do. We track it by the number of bags. They collect the trash and they leave the bags there. And then with our forces, we pick up the bags and we dispose of them. So what they save us is the labor of picking up the trash and put it in a bag. We still pick up the bags and take it to the landfill, and we keep track of the number of bags that we receive from each adoption.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm worried about running out of time here, so I'd like to move to the next presentation and then we'll come back for questions and comments. So let's go ahead and go to Surfrider and I Love a Clean San Diego.
Hi,
Thank you, Chair. For the record, there were no public comments.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, can you see the slides?
I can. Did I hear there was public comment or not?
Oh.
No? Go ahead and continue, Mayor.
There are no public comments and the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much. I want to thank you for having us. Some of us watched your last Zoom meeting and saw the passion that each of you described in the problem in your own jurisdictions. And we would like to show you a solution to highway debris. The Marion County Blueprint shows a path to success. A quick introduction from each of us. I'm Mark O'Connor. I'm one of the co-leads for Surfrider San Diego's Rise Above Plastic Committee, and I live in the city of Encinitas. Len? All right, I'll just go down then. Len Herring is the executive director of I Love a Clean San Diego. Janice Jones is a co-lead for San Diego Surfrider Rise Above Plastic. Jenny Roberts is an additional co-lead for the same committee. And Jill Whitebook, who is with us, is one of the co-founders of the Marion County Highways. And we are so glad that she is with us. The first slide, please. What we're hoping to show you is just the volume of person-hour, volunteer hours, the supporters, the events, the amount of debris that we clean up locally. It's just a quick overview. And what we want you to see is that we have the access and capacity in both coastal and inland locations to make a difference. And we did provide San Diego with at least 20 additional nonprofits in the environmental arena to be invited as stakeholders, and we sure hope that they do join us and support this effort. Next, please. Jenny, did you make it in?
Yep, I did. All right. So one of the larger threats to our oceans and environment today are plastics. There's an estimated 8 million tons of plastic that enters our ocean every year, and that number is only going to keep climbing. By 2050, there is an estimated to be more plastic than fish in the ocean by weight. And plastics are petroleum-based products that contribute to greenhouse gas emissions at every stage. And they're found everywhere throughout the water column, all throughout the environment, even in the deepest parts of our ocean. The Marianas Trench, which is the deepest part of the ocean, was found a plastic bag. And it's not just an ocean issue, it's also a human health issue. Scientists predict that we're currently ingesting a credit card-sized amount of plastic every week. That's little tiny microplastics that the food we eats, and that in return is coming into our own digestive system. So not only is it an environmental issue, but it's also a human health issue as well. Next one. So this is just a video of kind of the problem that we're all talking about. This is the 78, and as you can see, there's just tons of debris all along the side of the highway, and that debris eventually ends up into our storm drains and then out into the ocean.
And I do want to say I travel the 78 corridor every day, and I do know there has been a lot of cleanup efforts taking place there, and the residents do appreciate that very much. There are many impacts beyond just the litter that we see on the roadways. All storm drains, not just highway storm drains, but all storm drains in the city of San Diego, that trash enters the watershed and ends up going to the ocean. It also causes many accidents, thousands of injuries, and hundreds of deaths per a AAA study were caused by road debris between 2011 and 2014. And as Caltrans already shared, millions of dollars are spent on cleanup efforts annually. So as we've been thinking about this program and what our goals, I think we're all in alignment. We want to stop the accumulation of litter and other debris on our highways, and there's several reasons why we want to do that. We want to prevent it from entering the watershed. We want to decrease the amount of marine debris and plastic pollution that's entering the environment. We want to avert accidents and injuries. We want to reduce cleanup costs, and we want to beautify San Diego County. And there are many different solutions to this problem. So we've thought through what the threats are, what our goals are, and how we can work together to find solutions.
Hi everyone, as Mark mentioned, I am co-founder of Marin Clean Highways. I moved to the Oceanside Carlsbad area about 3 years ago. In Marin County, we had a similar problem as San Diego, and that was the increasing amount of debris on our highways. The majority was coming from uncovered or unsecured trucks on their way to the resource recycling centers or the landfill, as well as incidental trash like fast food waste blowing out of the back of uncovered pickup trucks. With the goal of prevention, my colleague and I created the Tarp Your Load program. We developed bilingual educational pieces. We raised money for tarps with the endorsement from our county supervisors, participation from CHP and local police and Caltrans. We held quarterly events at the resource center to give away tarps and information to drivers of uncovered vehicles. Approximately 75 to 80% of the vehicles coming in were uncovered. The program proved to be a success, and I'm happy to say that the Marin County Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program assumed responsibility, and after 6 years, this program is still in effect. We believe that this success can be replicated here in San Diego County. So what you see on this slide are some of the proposed key elements of the program, educational pieces that include how to cover your load properly, the environmental impact of debris, the California state law regarding tarping your load or covering and securing your loads, as well as the San Diego County ordinance. Another opportunity is that there are a lot of commercial haulers traveling through San Diego County to and from the border that are uncovered or not covered properly, and that represents another opportunity for improvement. Next slide. So it is vitally important to the success of the program to maximize program visibility. This can be accomplished in many ways, but in part through the electronic signage on the freeways, public service announcements, press releases, social media. Other ways to increase awareness can be through educational workshops, promoting Caltrans Adopt program, and having a presence at all the environmental events such as fairs, festivals, beach and community cleanups that are happening throughout the county.
I muted myself, sorry about that. As Andrew mentioned, we can also work on source reduction. We can prevent it from getting there in the first place. And he mentioned the uptick in the fast food and restaurant industry waste. And I've heard the analogy, and maybe some of you have heard it as well, of trying to empty an overflowing tub with a teaspoon when really what you need to do is turn off the tap. And that tap is coming in many ways from within our cities. And so we need to look at what we can do around policy and mitigating those sources so that we aren't having to expend the time, energy, and money to do the cleanup after the fact. And, sorry. And one of our most powerful solutions is going to be our partnerships and working together. Ah, what did I do? Stop. Go back. Is that where I need to be? Yep, okay. Who has the Caltrans slide?
We have already reached out to Caltrans and had the Zoom meeting with Gustavo and Andrew and others, and we have a partner already and have a wonderful working relationship to include some of the things you see on the screen about carping your load events, adopt a highway programs, trying to get the word out, collaborating this month and on September 26th, as you saw, the 4 sites that they're going to work with I Love a Clean San Diego on. It was actually them that mentioned going into next year into Earth Day and other events. So the sincerity of working together is there. Messaging and increased efforts as they spoke about, and we're seeing there already is some improvement in the debris on our roadways. Next slide, please. So this is kind of an important piece of source reduction, the law enforcement CHP component. Now, we have already reached out to CHP with 7 asks, of which are pretty much here up on the screen. We've made contact with Border Division Public Information Officer Jake Sanchez, who's going to run the asks up his chain of command. And I think, as Serge said, right now, CHP must just be at minimum staffing, manning command posts, and we expect a slow or delayed response to this type of a program. But the program does focus on education, handouts, events, some traffic stops, commercial enforcements, warnings, and we believe all of that would put them in a positive light with the public of trying to educate them. But of course, citations may have to come into play at their discretion to get the message across. And what we like is the fact that this program supports their mission of safety, reducing property damage, injuries, and death. And then the side is our benefit of preventing debris reaching the highways and going out to the ocean where we pick it up. So I also want to just point out that CHP is not the only one we're trying to put any pressure on to assist us. It's all law enforcement agencies. For example, the EDCO transfer station up in Carlsbad, 200 yards away from Carlsbad PD. We would love to see them engage their commercial enforcement people, senior volunteer patrol, volunteers, our volunteers, to have these TARP days be successful. And I just want to mention, depending on how our 7 asks go, the relationship we're building with you, we count on to maybe open some doors that we're having trouble engaging agencies like the California Highway Patrol or the Sheriff's Department. Next slide, please.
Lynn, I think this is you.
Oh, my unmute button's not working. Okay. One of the areas that we see opportunity is with the Regional Water Quality Control Board. They have regulatory oversight and have the ability to be able to impose necessary implementation procedures and processes like swirl pits and other things that are across the eastern seaboard, but not here in San Diego. The expectation is trying to figure out how to get there from here in the time frame that we're allotted. They have the ability to provide opportunity for a significantly greater amount of stormwater pollution prevention and marketing, and helping us in the effort of educating individuals into what needs to happen so that we can protect our watersheds and, more importantly, make absolutely certain that every drop counts. So we think that there's actually quite a few opportunities for us to be able to do things like the TARP Your Load events that were done in Marin, actually getting out there and making contact. This morning, as an example, there were 11 vehicles on my route to work this morning that were not properly tarped, many of them just with plastic over their load. But the sad part was that 2 of them were municipal trucks. Individuals who are part of each of the municipality I drove through, in which they were not properly tarped, carrying things from point A to point B. So we need to get the education down to virtually every level if we're going to fix this problem. We need to figure out how to distribute tarps. I know that for some individuals, this is too difficult, but if you provide the opportunity for them to have one, maybe they'll think twice about doing it. We need to offer incentives and gift cards, and we really need to do exactly the same thing that we're doing in the recycle campaign in this particular area. We need to be able to focus education so that people understand that by doing these type of things, they can in fact reduce the amount of waste and trash that is on our highway. Many of the large aspects are partners that we can all talk to. We can invite to the table and be able to start these efforts so that waste disposal entities and landfill operators can help us make sure that not only the education, but the enforcement. We found out that while there is a rate difference for those individuals who show up at our landfills without their load properly tarped to be charged an additional fee, we find out that that in fact is not being enforced. So even the processes that are in place need to be reinforced through the franchise agreements and make absolutely certain that we're addressing these and using them as part of the education opportunities.
Lynn, was this one also yours?
Yeah, I'm trying to get on the deal, sorry. And then there are other entities that we think that we can really get a hold of and really engage if there's opportunities for us to visit the chambers of commerce, many of the civic organizations like the Rotaries for information. We think that there are a ton of organizations like the Builders Association, like commercial waste haulers, convention and visitor bureaus. I mean, we say that San Diego is America's finest city, but she's certainly trashy and I'm pretty embarrassed. So what are other visitors who are coming from out of state thinking when they go from the airport to their hotels or visit our beaches and they're literally cluttered with trash? parking lots are absolutely full of trash and debris. We need to instill civic pride and create an education opportunity where these organizations are engaged and understand the importance of being part of the solution. So we can collaborate easily with Caltrans, CHP, Sandag, and others, but we'd love to be able to engage as many other organizations. We would very much like to help Caltrans successfully accomplish its role. Again, I Love a Clean San Diego has more than 40,000 volunteers every year. So we can help to create that volunteer network of individuals for on-ramp and off-ramp activities. We can help with neighborhood watches and cleanups. We can coordinate and make some of those things happen. We're more than capable of being able to provide the presentations. We do it for many of the municipalities in Sandag as it is. Adding this type of opportunity to your contracts are not that difficult, but they are efforts that can be done both virtually and in person when we need to. We think that we definitely need to amplify the debris-free highway program. I know that there are, the digital signs on the road. We advertise for everything else, but we don't advertise for the fact that keep your debris and make sure it's done properly. And as it says, we can help. I think each of our organizations can help recruit, Adopt a Highway. Again, if you go back to the Chamber of Commerce and others, those are entities in which the pride effort can be instituted as part of that. Hey, come on. Let's think about adopting a portion of the highway so that this can be done properly and we can really make something different. And then really explode on the Tarp Your Load events. Getting opportunities to be able to get out into the community and be able to see and show and then provide the necessary equipment so that they can be done right. And then the last one, of course, is to advocate for the reduction as it is. We got to figure out how to get, well, paper is biodegradable. What we're really worried about is the plastics and the nurdles that end up as part of our environment. So anything we can do to reduce and create policies for the reductions of plastics are where we ought to be.
I have one last little detail on Adopt a Highway and off-ramps. Surfrider San Diego has reached out to our national headquarters asking for permission to put volunteers on the SeaWorld on and off-ramps to support their program directly. We're waiting for a response for that.
So in summary, we've presented the key elements to what we feel is a pretty comprehensive program. It's not limited to the Tarp Your Load program, reaching out to communities through various modalities, reducing plastic at its source, and what's really critical, and I think that we already see the start of that, forming partnerships with like-minded stakeholders working toward this common goal for debris-free highways. The picture you see on this slide is a demonstration of the partnership from one of our TARP days at the Marin Resource Center. Along with my colleague and I, there are 2 county supervisors, highway patrol, and police from the local jurisdiction, all there to hand out tarps and educate drivers. What we're asking now is how can we work together to produce a successful and comprehensive San Diego County program? What are the next steps and how can we best support you in these efforts?
And although that sounds like a lot of information, as Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So if we all work together, we can get San Diego as beautiful as we'd like.
And that concludes our presentation.
Okay, well, thank you. Both presentations were excellent. There was a lot of information for us to use as a foundation, and I'll just start with the things that jumped out at me so that the board members could come up with what our future meetings will tackle, and also then maybe what is our path going forward. So I'll just share some of the things that stuck out to me. So I think we should ask Surfrider and I Love a Clean San Diego to come up with an action plan for a Tarp Your Load program. So the information about Marin, you know, that 75 to 80% of vehicles were untarped and that they were able to get that program up and going and then it was taken over by the county. That seemed to me like something that we could try to replicate here. And it's also clear to me that we need to have some more outreach to our county supervisors because none of them are on this panel, but at least a staff person from the county being present at these meetings. To me, that seems like something we should really try to add. So I have, I think, like 3 or 4 things as specific action items. So I'll say them all and then we can come back and get feedback from you about it. So to ask for an action plan that would basically roll out this program. So how's it working? Who's doing what are the different pieces of the puzzle so that we can start to try to execute that. The second thing is that I would like more information from Caltrans on the accountability associated with Adopt a Highway program. So I feel concerned that areas that have been adopted are not clean, that volunteers, whether corporate or not, are not keeping up with the responsibilities. And I'd like to really understand how often they are responsible for contacting Caltrans about what they've done. And what is our follow-up? Is it letters? Is it phone calls? Is it nothing? And what is the plan to address that? Because of 425, to me, it seems like we really need to dial in an accountability system that works for those 425. I also fear and feel worried that the amount that they're paying is too low for their advertising. So essentially, and I'll give an example of one in Encinitas, there's a former political candidate who adopted a highway off-ramp, right? He lost his election. He did not get reelected. And now his area and never picked up, and he paid $250 to have his name on that sign, and it was basically a drop in the bucket for his campaign, and we're not getting that community benefit that we really need. I'm just turning off my video because it said I was unstable, so I want to make sure you can still hear me. I'll go back on in a second. But I would like to have more information about that. I think the sign itself that I saw on the picture was from Hydrex Pest Control, was certainly more than $250. I mean, the sign alone, let alone the advertising. I mean, if you put an ad in the newspaper one time, it would cost more than this sign that sits up there for at least a year. So I want to really make sure that this program is designed accurate to maximize benefit. And then also I'd like to be provided, this committee to be provided with the on and off ramps or the sections of freeway in each jurisdiction to say which are the ones that have been adopted or that need to be adopted in each city. Because, like, for example, in my city, if there were 10, let's say, and I knew that we had only adopted 1, then I could go out as the mayor in my messaging and try to find 9 others to help. But I really want to make sure that what we're asking for is going to work, because I feel concerned about going out and trying to generate that involvement for them to sign up for a program that's not going to be clean. So I would like Caltrans to come back with more information about that. And then it seemed there was information that we as a committee need to figure out how to have higher engagement with CHP and Sheriff, and then also San Diego Regional Water Quality Control Board. I don't know anybody on that board. I don't even know how it's appointed, but certainly somebody does. So for us as a committee of either San Diego or other people who are in elected office who would know how to get that engagement with those 3, that seems to me like something we should take on. And then the level of service that Caltrans presented, it sounded like, I couldn't follow the methodology very closely, but it seemed like we have a level of service that we're trying to meet of about 80, and we are meeting it at about 80 or 81. So it seems like, given that we don't feel that that's adequate, we should have a goal, and I don't know what that would be. I would ask Caltrans to come back. What is our goal? Is it to go up to 90? What is the cleanliness goal where we feel that it might be something for us to shoot toward so that we can have a sense of progress? And then the last thing is, I'm concerned about the coordination of weed abatement and litter removal. So it's always so concerning to see or hear about some request to have weeds abated, and they go in and basically create plastic confetti by mowing down all the trash and all the weeds without picking up trash first. It's just, I mean, talk about an environmental disaster right there. We're just putting that straight into our oceans and everything, into our soil. And so that connection between weed abatement and reduction of litter, I think is an important thing for Caltrans to present to us about how you manage that, or if you're changing how you manage that, what those changes are. You know, when we heard the presentation on the budget and you said that there was 6.5 million allocated, I mean, just from 2011, so that's 9 years, it went from 1.4 million to 6.5 million. So there's substantial increases every single year. But then what you actually spent was double that. It was 12.6 million. This is a lot of money going into this program. So it's not like, I mean, maybe it is undercapitalized. I don't know, but it's not as if there's not any resources here. So making sure that those are being utilized in the most effective way, especially if the amount is going up from SB1 money or what the other sources that resulted in Caltrans having a higher budget. I think it's, you know, just good to know that there is quite a lot of money in this program. So I know there are a lot of things that Caltrans is working on. There are a lot of things going well, but there are also clearly areas for improvement. So I think for me, those would be the things that I would hope we could talk about in the future. And I, of course, want to hear from my colleagues on this about the places where they saw. But I think if we could focus on having that specific, much more deeply into Adopt a Highway and allow for us to offer feedback on that. And then also the action plan for our truck program, that would be really great.
I believe I sent you a picture. I don't have
So, somebody has to go on mute because we can hear a little bit of background. But I just want to, before I go and call on my other colleagues who are on this call, the other electeds, what do you think about that? Surf Rider and I Love a Clean San Diego do you think you would be able to come back with a potential action plan that would operationalize that you presented today? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think we could, yeah.
Okay, good. I like that idea. How long do you think it would take you? Because at the end of this meeting, I'm going to announce that we've had a request to go to an every 3-week schedule instead of every 2-week. So, and I think that makes sense to give you the time to do that, especially given the noticing requirements. So do you think in 3 weeks you would be able to come back with, yes, okay.
Yes.
I'm taking that as a thumbs up. Okay, great. I think that's fantastic. So let me look through my colleagues here. Does anybody want to make a comment or a question? I don't see a hand up, but I'm sure there are some. Just have to give people, oh yes, okay, there, Serge Dedina. Sorry, I'm looking also on the side for you to put your hand up, not just to see, but yes, I see you. And then we'll go to you, Jack Feller. So let's go to Serge first.
First, thanks to Caltrans' excellent presentation, and then obviously my colleagues at I Love Clean San Diego and Surfrider. So the answer is yes. I'm assuming you guys can get an action plan in 5 minutes. I would, as someone who runs a nonprofit, obviously, I think I was struck by the significant increase in Caltrans spending. I mean, radically significant increase to deal with people who throw garbage on our highways. And so, you know, the reality is hopefully spending a lot more on public outreach and communications would then reduce significantly the money we spend on litter abatement. So knowing how our nonprofits work, they're not the government. So possibly between the Regional Water Board, you know, the City of San Diego Blue Water Task Force, you know, Stormwater Department, possibly Caltrans, maybe there are grants they can get and apply for that would fuel a campaign because they do cost money. But I would argue that I think someone once said policy isn't done in a whisper. So even with this organization, I'd love to see an op-ed, that San Diego Union Tribune op-ed page filled with, maybe it's Chair Blakespeare and Mayor Sotelo Solis as an op-ed, Surfrider, I Love Clean San Diego, and then Caltrans. Together, there's spot for 3 op-eds launching this campaign. It could be a press conference, et cetera, but we need to show that there's something happening. Because I think the reality is people really want to help. I think the minute that we launch something and it's very public, you're going to see a lot more campaign. You're going to see a lot more engagement. And without that sort of detonating the campaign, it's not going to happen. But because it's very clear that Caltrans needs a lot more assistance to supercharge. I could throw all the car-related bro dude like car things out to talk about how we supercharge, throw an additive in their efforts, but they definitely need some help. The organization I run works with Cal Fish and Wildlife on marine protected areas that I know Surfriders involved with. It's been the same thing to stop poaching. It takes a huge coalition to stop ocean poaching, and Caltrans, it's the same thing with Caltrans. So we're going to need sheriffs, CHP, et cetera, involved in that. But getting moving quickly before the next meeting to supercharge this effort and getting some public outreach and communications to sort of detonate it, I think would be really critical to highlight the need for the sponsorship, Adopt a Highway, and then to highlight the problem that faces, and then so people know that there's some effort being made to address it. Right now in this era, it's really important to do things, not just talk about doing things. So the more we can move in 5 minutes by tomorrow, in 3 weeks, to actually start something, I think will be really great and make people feel like they will contribute to something positive. People are really we all know, hopeless. They can't stop the fires, can't stop the air quality. On the border, I can't stop the sewage, but we sure can get our highways clean. I think it'll be the hallmark of a win-win. We can turn this into a lose-lose into some big win-win. So that's my, so Surfrider, I live in San Diego. You don't need San Diego's permission to start kicking butt and actually making things happen. Just go for it. Like paddle in, charge, get barreled. If you get hammered, paddle back out and keep going. But that you guys can move a lot quicker than government can. So, and I think I would just hope that Caltrans would be a lot more open to figuring out how to move a lot more quickly and work. I know you work in partnerships, but just even being more mobile and adaptable to helping get this going quicker.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Deputy Mayor Jack Feller.
Thank you. My first, I have questions for Caltrans, but I wanted to say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure for everything we're trying to do. The question I have is, I saw Len say something about 40,000 volunteers. Is that each time you do something, or is that the total for a year of all your cleanups? Was that meant in that direction? Can I get that answer before I ask Gustavo?
Mayor, it's a total for the year. Many of them are repeat. So we see of that 40,000, some of those individuals may do 8 to 10 cleanups a year.
Okay.
So we do 2 major cleanups. Coastal Cleanup Day is coming up on the 26th of September. And we do Creek to Bay in the April-May timeframe, which are the 2 largest ones, roughly 5,000 to 7,000 per event at 140 plus sites across the county. But the total across the annual is we have about a 40,000 person strong volunteer base who allow us to do more than 500 cleanups a year.
Okay, thank you, sir. And this is for Gustavo and his crew. So we have in Carlsbad 35 employees on the litter cleanup, I believe I saw. And is that 35 for Carlsbad, or is that 35 for the county?
That 35, Deputy Mayor Feller, is for the county. So that's not just dedicated for Carlsbad. Those are for those 6 areas that Andrew showed on the map.
Okay, and is there a graffiti vehicle for each area? Because graffiti fits right in the middle of this, so.
The 35 that we're talking about are exclusively for litter. We have other crews that try to clear graffiti, and we have different metrics for graffiti removal. It depends on whether it's contains obscene language and it needs to be removed immediately, or other timeframes for graffiti removal. But the 35 that we're talking about are
Okay.
exclusively for litter.
So is there a dedicated graffiti vehicle for North County?
I can come back with the statistics and the numbers for the graffiti crews that we have, as well as how many are working in North County.
Okay.
I don't have that at the top of my head right now.
And then I also have a question regarding the adopted areas. Does Caltrans leave those areas alone if there is an adopted highway location? Is it primarily the responsibility?
It's primarily the responsibility of the adoptees, but Andrew, do you want to jump in? Do you have any more information regarding that?
Sure, correct. I mean, there would be an emphasis on the adoptees, but no, we clean all areas depending on the need. So again, some adoptions may be, only once a month type of frequency requirement on the adoption. So if trash generates more than that, we will definitely be in there with our own forces. And let me just quickly, I know we'll come back and talk about accountability and some of those other things, but I realized maybe one point of confusion in my presentation was when I mentioned that cost, that's a monthly cost. So some adoptions are up to $1,000 a month. So companies would be paying $10,000 to $12,000 a year for their adoption. So I just want to be clear on that. So because I realized that the slide didn't clarify that. So
I got it. And my last question is probably as well for you, since you did the presentation, the interchange areas where you talked about the cities could clean those areas. Normally we've left them alone in Oceanside, even if they are in, proximity to our sidewalks or however it happens. But that area underneath a freeway are you saying that we as a city could clean up to the top of that if we choose?
Yes, I mean, Gustavo can add more, but absolutely, that's what we're looking for is for the cities to do that additional cleaning outside of the back of sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. One thing that I still think, how are we going to get engagement with CHP, Sheriff, and San Diego Regional Water Quality Control Board? Does anyone have a thought on, or is that going to be Sandyke staff who reaches out? Is that what, does anybody have relationships in those areas? Serge, I know you're pretty heavily involved in this area. Maybe he stepped away. Anybody else? Yes.
Mayor, I can speak as to the CHP. We have an excellent relationship with the CHP. As a matter of fact, they are a partner with a lot of the cleanups that we've been talking about. So we can definitely reach out to a CHP, and if there is one meeting that is focused specifically on enforcement, then we can let them know and ask for their participation. But just to clarify that they are an active participant in all of the cleanups that we discussed.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good to know. And then Jim, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
Before Gustavo got on, I was going to volunteer Gustavo because I do know that Caltrans does have an excellent relationship with most of the law enforcement in the region and others, and we can work with them on any other group that needs to be engaged.
Okay. Well, it seems to me like they should maybe be following this. So we should reach out to them and have them participating and watching, at least have somebody on their staff watching this so that they can, I think we will ask them to come before the committee and present on how they handle cleanup sites so that we don't have big bumpers and other stuff that gets left over from car crashes.
Right.
Yeah. So Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sorry.
Oh, wait.
This is Janice. I just wanted to add that Mark did write a proposal and submit it to CHP. He hasn't heard back from anyone yet, but it was regarding the things that we think that we could collaborate with them, Surfrider and I Love a Clean San Diego.
And then lastly, I'm a retired sergeant with the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, and I still have some relationships within the Sheriff's Department and have kind of a law enforcement mentality when it comes to hopefully interacting with the CHP. And I do hope we get a response back. But again, you're asking them, I'm sure we'll bring them to the table.
And Mayor, if I could just add, I just got texted that we do have a member as an attendance from the CHP right now monitoring this. So we're already
great.
First step there.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. Okay, Mayor Sotelo Solis. Wait, we can't hear you. No. Try again. Okay, well, we'll come back to you in a minute. Okay, so what do we think about having an action plan? So what I like about this is that Caltrans is dealing with, predominantly dealing with the trash that's already there. And some of this stuff about the Adopt a Highway, picking it up, the accountability issues, the pricing, the breakdown by city. I want to ask Andrew and Gustavo about whether you feel that in 6 weeks, you would be able to deal with those things and present in more detail about that, and any suggestions you have about or plans you have to make that program really effective. And also, I just would like to add in the issue of contractors. So, when contractors, there's a big section of 5 through North County. That contractor, because they're widening the freeway, and the Mid-Coast there was a lot of construction on the freeway. That contractors, they should really be held responsible for the trash and not have to have the mayor call in a complaint, right? It should be something that is part of their contract, that they're fined for if they're not following it, that there's some accountability as part of that contractor. So I'd like to add that in as something that you would come back to us with in 6 weeks. So I'll just ask Andrew and Gustavo to respond to those requests and see if that's something you feel that you could present in 6 weeks.
Yes, Mayor, we can come back in 6 weeks and do a deeper dive on those topics that you outlined, the Adopt a Highway, and as well as the role of the contractors play.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then also just to say, so the weed abatement relationship with litter is also important, so we're not creating plastic confetti. So I would like to ask that also be part of the presentation. And then also your suggestion for a level of service goal. So what would be the goal that we're going for in terms of improvement for level of service? And then, so then on the prevention side, we have the tar through load. So try to reduce the amount of things that are flying out of trucks, and that we would have that in 3 weeks as an action plan so that we could figure out who is doing what and who is the lead on these various parts in order to launch this here in our county. And I like Serge's idea about writing an editorial and working, maybe we should work with the Sandag communications team to come up with a plan there so that who's writing what and how that's all happening.
I think Chair Blakespear, can you hear me?
You're back.
Yay, I'm back. I had to log off and log back in. I wholeheartedly agree with all of the points that you made. The level of the service goals, I think, is extremely important. One of the things that was pointed out through the presentation was that it's not necessarily a grid system or a pattern or a set north to south, east to west, but based off of problem areas. And I think if when we talk about the level of service goals, we also talk about uniformity or being able to engage all communities, because people want consistency. And if it's inconsistent or there's trash that gets picked up and not in a routine manner, I know that the adoption of those freeway on and off ramps would help alleviate that. But I think we also too need to let the public know that this is currently the mechanism with which Caltrans works on, but we can also too help to alleviate that. A 3-week action plan, I think is really important that we keep the timeline again tight, but also I would support the editorial and the ability to, launch this and really let constituencies know throughout the county that this is of concern, but this is longer term. This goes beyond, and conversations had started even prior to COVID. Now everybody's, able to have more eyes in the community, and now more people are placing those complaints, and we need their help to help us address these issues. So I would echo Serge's, Mayor Dedina's comments earlier. We want to have that trigger of events so that everybody has the welcome to get engaged. So thank you, Chair. Thank you again, Gustavo. And I believe the sergeant is on, and I actually would like to know through CHP just how often, they do go out. I know Gustavo mentioned that they are part of the cleanup, but what their, do they have a person that they have kind of designated to this type of project? Because we know in National City, our PD has our homeless outreach team that works closely through law enforcement with Caltrans, our code enforcement, and CHP. So I'd be curious if we can get an answer to that. Thank you.
I'm not sure if he's on.
Mayor, if you were referring to my statement about being a retired sergeant with the Sheriff's Department, I would not be in a position to answer those questions, but somebody did mention that we may have a CHP person in a listening capacity, maybe not a presenter capacity. So I don't know.
No, I believe it's Sergeant Johnson from CHP. So just wanted to see if he was able to address us. But, your expertise, you can give us all the secrets.
Hi, this is Sergeant Johnson. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Hi, so I'm Sergeant Johnson with the CHP, and I work at the Border Division area offices. We are currently working with Caltrans right now to come up with a plan of action as into how we're going to assist with this effort here. I did get an email from Jake from the Surfrider Foundation, and I have pushed that up the chain to my upper management as well as my chief. And I'm just waiting to hear back from a response as to how we are going to assist them with this problem. I will reach out to Marin County CHP and see what they've done in the past and how we can maybe expedite this process.
Great. That's wonderful. We love that can-do attitude. Thank you.
And I can provide the information for Chief Moda at the Marin CHP, who was very instrumental in helping us.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, we're just a little bit over we're trying to keep it to an hour and a half of a meeting so everyone can plan their time accordingly. But I think unless there are any last discussions, I do feel that we have an action plan for the next couple meetings and that we're making good progress here. So if there aren't any, yes, Gustavo, were you wanting to speak?
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to reiterate one of the points in Andrew's presentation, which was that picture that showed a city street going under a freeway with trash both on the curb, but also beyond the sidewalk, just beyond the sidewalk. And I think it would be good out of this committee and eventually also the full board of directors to have a commitment from the local agencies that they will pick up that trash, because our expectation is that they are. And if the cities are not doing that, and we think they are, that trash is falling through the cracks, so it's not getting picked up. So what I would like to get in the future, we don't have to do it today, but it's hopefully a commitment from all the local agencies that are represented in the board of directors, a commitment to just go beyond the sidewalk, the end of the sidewalk, and pick up that trash when they're cleaning the trash that is on the sidewalk or on the street that they're already maintaining.
Yeah, I think that's a great point and a reasonable expectation. And one of the things, when I saw that picture, to me, it wasn't it's not at all intuitive that underneath the Caltrans highway bridge inside of the dirt would be the city area. So, you know, when that was being distinguished this from that, because Caltrans controls the lights, the stoplights, and everything related to what's happening around their interchanges, you know, I think there are probably a lot, I don't know, but a lot of cities where they're just not even clear on where the boundaries are. I know in our city, we've just started cleaning up Caltrans right-of-way areas because we don't want all the trash. So we'll just come through and do the whole thing, even though we're not supposed to. But having that delineation and saying, okay, the cities are going to do a better job, and even just understanding where the city starts, that municipal responsibility, I think is a really important thing and is very reasonable on your part to expect. So, okay, well, let's see.
Just wait. I just want to interrupt. Please break all the rules you can. Imperial Beach used to paint our own crosswalks before Caltrans gave us the right of relinquishment, and they didn't, I don't think they minded. So yeah, please break rules. We're in a pandemic. Caltrans needs all the help they can get. They will appreciate anything that's breaking the rule. I will not file a complaint, and I will encourage every city to start cleaning up off ramps. But that's the attitude we're going to have to help Caltrans and all of us fix this problem. So thank you, Mayor Blakespear, for your get it done approach.
Mayor, if I could, just 1 second.
Yes, yes.
I know that Serge said sooner is better than later. I just want to promote that again, everybody has the opportunity to go out on the 26th for Coastal Cleanup Day. And I also want to make absolutely certain that Caltrans and I Love a Clean San Diego continue to work with each other in trying to figure out how to do this from a volunteer perspective. We've always been told that the permit requirements for on and off ramps were prohibitive and not something that volunteers could address. But we also run the largest Adopt a Beach program in California. So when we have areas of high concern, we have more than one volunteer group that can be assigned or assigned to a group. So it's not one volunteer group, it can be as many as 5 or 6, and they all get their names displayed on that particular Adopt a set. So I think we can help and work with each other in order to be able to make sure that the volunteer and effort hits those areas that are, you know, the highest risk in contamination and trash. And people can do that on the 26th. We don't care. The coastal cleanup is really about making sure that litter abatement across the entire 11 watersheds is the target. Your neighborhood is a watershed if you live in San Diego. So that's, you know, that's just a pitch. We can make it happen.
That's a great point. I mean, I encourage Caltrans and Len to talk to each other in advance of this meeting to talk about how, I mean, if marine groups and church groups are going out and cleaning, having your volunteers go out and clean seems like it would be a reasonable extension of that, and to maybe break through whatever the roadblock has been would be really great.
Catherine?
Yes.
I just want to say to Serge, don't put it on letterhead to break the rules.
Never, don't worry about it.
I think we need from Caltrans is that direction, because we're under the same rules that the Admiral just stated. That we feel that it's their responsibility, and have been told that for a good period of time. So we're talking about, you know, graffiti on the, you know, all of those kinds of things that are right on our sidewalks as they go past these places. So if it's on a city street under a Caltrans road, we need to know that what we're doing is okay.
And we get 20 to 30 phone calls every week on those type of issues.
Chair Blakespear, one last comment. I know we're short on time. I would just say that I know in National City, our public works crew goes above and beyond. And, you know, we do what we can with the resources that we can. And to the point, I think it's how we leverage and really maximize. If we're out cleaning, you know, let's go all in. But also too, if Caltrans is cleaning, go all in. You know, it's kind of like on both sides, that everybody is doing their part. And, you know, because when taxpayer dollars are at play, you know, people are saying, well, they should be doing this. This is what should be happening because I already paid for it. And I think it's that empowerment to say yes, but you know, they also pay for this. And I think the pie chart that was provided earlier provides a good breakdown of where their taxpayer dollars are being used through Caltrans. So thank you again for hosting this meeting. Adelante, let's do this.
Chair Blakespear, this is Tessa, the clerk. You
Yes.
have, I would like to announce first for the members, panelists, and the public that the PowerPoints presented today for items 3 and 4 have been posted to the SANDAG website and are accessible there. And then you have 2 public commenters currently for this item.
Okay, great. I didn't know that. Let's go ahead and hear those 2.
The first public commenter is Rob Hutzel.
Well, thank you very much. Just want to introduce myself to those that don't know me. I'm one of the founders of the San Diego River Park Foundation and currently the CEO. We work probably one of the largest river-based cleanup programs in the county and remove over 300,000 pounds of trash each year along the river. We partner a lot with Caltrans and Gustavo. I think we have some lessons that maybe at a future meeting we could share with you that have been very helpful over the last couple of years where we would develop those relationships. We also work very closely with the Water Board and other parties. So maybe at a future meeting we'd have an opportunity to talk a little bit more. I know it's real late, but I just wanted to introduce ourselves again. We have a very large volunteer program and several trained staff that are out there still doing this. We do 3 cleanups a week. And we do 3 surveys a week of that trash and document that. So we have quite a program. So I just want to say hi and thank you.
Thank you.
The other commenter was Len Herring, but I see he put his hand down, but Admiral Herring, did you want to speak? Okay, thank you. That's all for the public comments, Chair Blakespear.
Wait, I think he's waving his hand saying yes. Or are you waving your hand saying no? No, okay. Okay.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, this has been really productive. I'm thrilled by the enthusiasm from everyone and the number of volunteers that these organizations bring to the table. Really, it's impressive. The public speaker, and then of course, I Love a Clean San Diego, Surfrider, and all the others. So I think together we'll be able to do this. I'm really excited by our momentum. So our next meeting is September 30th, and it will go forward every 3 weeks from there. And SANDAG staff will send out an updated calendar to make sure you have the right dates. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.